Dobré ráno, dobré dopoledne, dobrý den. Vítám všechny tady u toho dalšího rozhovoru v pomalé mužsko-ženské konferenci. Dneska je mým hostem Dhyani Kovar. A protože Dhyani mluví anglicky, tak tady já začínám taky mluvit anglicky a v tomhletom rozhovoru budou titulky, které budou česky, takže ho můžete vychutnat v angličtině anebo i v angličtině s češtinou. That when the word Tantra was used, I would like to just, and if I use the word, let's say, that you listen to this interview right now or you watch it, let's say, what was the association that came to your mind when we use the word? This is very interesting because I have got some association. And maybe my association could be connected to the fact, why don't you use the word Tantra in connection with the work you do?
What was your association?
Yeah,
no. Secret.
Okay.
I'm all ear.
Yeah, but now it's becoming intimate. But let's say my association for this word is I'm aware that that Tantra is not just sex. I'm aware that it's a spiritual path, and I know, not by my own experience, but I know that we people from West brought it to the West, and we took, let's say, I would say most interesting part for us, which is the sexual thing. So, and I know that there are some teachers who do it or approach Tantra in this way as well in the Czech Republic. So in my mind, there was a room full of naked people, that room full of naked people that are making love at the same time. And I would like to say that there are two things associated with it. A, it's very interesting, there's an interest in me, but at the same time, there's as well something that doesn't feel safe at the same time. So there's like because for me, let's say my sexual life is very intimate, and there's even fear present that if I would be present in let's say in such a room, that I can very easily freeze, very easily.
Yeah. So I guess you hit the nail on the head. Many people would connect Tantra with free sex and orgy and basically Tantra sexuality, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And you are right, because Tantra was a spiritual path and the word comes from the Eastern tradition, and the Eastern masters, and it's simply including all of life into your spiritual practice and inclusive the sexual. And also Tantra had become like really, how you say, how to bring the sexuality into, how to learn or to bring your spirituality to the sexual meeting. No? And that again opens another door to interesting topics, which is intimacy. Yeah. Because when we think of intimacy, again, our mind goes very easily, oh, intimacy, being physically or sexually intimate. But there is also emotional intimacy, there is sexual intimacy, physical intimacy, there is mental intimacy and spiritual intimacy. So intimacy has a whole kaleidoscope of areas where we can be intimate with each other. Be intimate with each other. Yeah, so another interesting topic.
This is a big topic because, let's say, for me, most of my life with, let's say, women, the only way how to feel intimate was to have sex with them.
Mm.
That was just the physical, because I didn't have experience of being, let's say, emotionally intimate with them. That wasn't available for me. And it came, let's say, over years. And maybe this is the interesting question, you know, it's like how to, because I know that this is not only, let's say, topic of men. I know that that this is a topic of let's say, ladies. And sometimes, and this is interesting, we jump into bed much earlier before we start doing some emotional intimacy.
Mm.
That's my experience, or at least it was experience of me in my, let's say, romantic affairs.
When we were young.
Yeah.
I was young.
Yeah, but we still are, at least, let's say, in our heart and in our mind, or actually in our soul.
I'm even more younger and more innocent, and I mean, in an older body, yeah. So
Yeah. And the question is, let's say, how to say, I'm a normal person, let's say, in the West. Let's say, so far, my connection to intimacy was only through physical closeness and sex, having sex or making love, whatever you call it. And I know that it's something is missing from that. I already sense it. How to invite the emotional intimacy into my relationship?
Mhm. So there are several ways to go about. So one way is, of course, to work somatically, or to work on oneself, because sometimes we, out of life conditions, I don't want to call it trauma, out of different challenges, maybe the capacity wasn't developed to fully embody emotions, because for emotions to be there, there needs to be also an embodiment, otherwise they cannot be contained. Yeah, so there is personal work involved. And then there is also like maybe renegotiating things that we haven't experienced in the past. Part of my trauma-informed sexual healing training will be also on that. On one hand, how to support people to be more connected with their emotions again, and maybe to also and to embody emotions and what it means. But also it's like with another person, we can very easily also heals it, like the sexual trauma, also the emotional trauma can be healed in a safe contact with another person. So safety is a main topic there, and we can feel safe, then we can be with what there is. And also like to separate the conditioning from our emotions, because many of us have been told, oh, sex is not good, anger is not good, yeah. And when we all don't want to, when our life becomes more and more, how you say, uh, small with all those conditionings, and it's again how to untangle, to un how to acknowledge, oh, it's a conditioning, and how to free this and to see that anger can become self-empowerment, and is very needed for also us to put boundaries towards other people, or with our children, if our children don't get boundaries, it's not good. No? So, and this is all part of this whole healing process that I'm offering, no? And also how to assist other people in doing so. No? So I always work, definitely, it has to be 50% self-experimental, and then 50% learning of how to work with other people in that. No? Yeah.
So get intimate with your emotions first, let's say.
Yeah.
It's the
And your own work, maybe you taking sessions, trauma healing sessions, or experiencing in groups a safe space. It has to be safe spaces where this can be explored, so in a safe way, no? And some people are not even, they have to learn how to be in touch with their emotion, because they can only feel in their body, or I'm feeling hot in my heart, cold in my belly. And because something happened to their life so early where they had to freeze, you know, this capacity of translating this cold or hot into an emotion, this bridge hasn't been created, and they need assistance to somehow learn to understand emotion and to express and connect what it is. Yeah, so it's really where everybody is very different. So we have to start where one is at.
And I would say that this is as well inclusion, including my emotions into my life.
And into sexuality. We cannot have sacred sexuality if we exclude anything. Sacred sexuality or conscious sexuality is including everything. All the ecstasy, all the pains, all the anger, everything. The horniness, being horny, whatever. It all needs to be included, no?
But word that as well, I know that for some people it triggers something which is sacred, because I would say that we not only excluded to some extent our emotions or some of the emotions, those ones that are not comfortable for us, but we as well somehow, let's say, excluded the, let's say, spiritual. Because if you say sacred, then what comes in my mind is like spirituality and relating to something bigger, which is like, especially in the Czech Republic, we have got the least percentage of people organized in any church whatsoever. We are like, I think maybe it's the world, we are number one in the world in this, not only in the beer consumption, but maybe as well in not being organized in any church at all. So I know that it triggers something. Let's say, yeah, this is something like, this is ESO. This is ESO. It's like, go away. This is not for me.
That's interesting. And it's good that Czech has this relation, that they are not organized church-wise. And maybe this word sacred can be replaced in conscious, but at the same time, if it triggers something in people, that relationship of being triggered could also be, how you say, investigated into, because it's interesting then.
Yeah, I know. I know, but I as well know that for many people, it ends in, let's say, this is not, the point goes out and they put the finger and say, this is something which is bad. Might be more, how to say it, smarter or more intelligent or more fancy word used for that, but the basics is like, this is bad. And, and it's actually, why don't we look at ourselves, at this situation? Why this is as well, let's say, because if this happens, then it shows to a tendency of us, let's say, judging the things, but not thinking about where comes the judgment from. This is as well a very interesting topic.
Yeah. And it's also always a reciprocal process, yeah, because it's like there are people who are more in, others are more out, but it's really great in order to also establish an energy flow. The focus needs to be out and in, and optimally 50% here, 50% there. Then energy can really flow. But when I'm only out there, nothing can flow because I'm stuck here. And the same is when I'm only in, no?
Yeah,
in order for the energy to flow. And that's again the same in sexuality. You need to. If a man and a woman, they are too much merged and melted, no energy can flow. So there has to be, there's a lot we can learn and investigate and and if you are too far apart, you are disconnected. So how to be, how to experience where is the point where most energy starts to flow, and This is so interesting. And this can be experienced in my processes because, you know, with blindfolds, you feel different people's energies and you also become aware of the effect it has on you. And when you don't make judgments from what you see, your experience is very often very different. Yeah, so those things are really interesting. And then with some people, energy flows when you're very close physically. With other people, energy flows when you have a little more distance, you know. It depends also where we are all at. And when we have sexual wounds or trauma, then the more physical one has to come very slowly, you know. It's like more energy maybe flows further apart. And in order for the energy to continue flowing, the approaching has to happen very slowly and with a lot of safety. That's why in sexuality it's so important to have safety and a committed partner in order to have real healing happening. Because if you switch partners all the time, no chance to heal those traumas.
Yeah. There is, I would say, a diamond in what you said. I would just to bring it up to attention that, let's say, the energy, or I would say that always it's about both people, both persons in the relationship. It's never about just one. And it applies as well to the fact that if you, let's say, judge something, this is not only about the thing, it's as well about, let's say, myself. If I'm judging something, let's say it's the energy, and you actually there was this flow. I think that you used this gesture. So it's about both. And if we just say it's about that, then the energy flow stops. And you used another interesting word, which is energy, because let's say I would say that if somebody says that what we speak about is ego, then I would say that word energy comes very much into this bucket as well. But I would like to say something that at least based on my experience, what you say as an energy are for me bodily sensations that I've got in my body, that I can feel in my body. It starts with bodily sensations, and it's the same with being safe or not being safe. Let's say I feel okay or I don't feel okay. That's another word or another way how to say I'm safe, I'm not safe.
Yeah. And you know, you could also, instead of energy, you could say electricity, because it's you can measure that, you know, what is happening between it's happening between plus and minus, or female and male. And you know, and there's always a third pole in terms of female male. It's a child that comes out of that. In electricity, you have the earth, yeah. So the whole existence is based on these three principles. Always in the formation of materialism, no? Into formation of
that's how we came to the world. There was
exactly.
our father, our mother, and then there is a child. That's the way how things come to be. Actually, people at least.
Yeah. No, but it's a basic, you know, scientific proven fact that is in all of what exists, at least what we can see and feel and perceive, no?
How can I, let's say, sense, or how can I recognize that I feel safe right now?
Yeah, that's also not everybody can recognize. It's also something that needs to be acknowledged and learned. Or for example, in some group structures, I build some matrices around. So when people have enough of the experience and need a little break to digest, they retreat to the safe place outside of it. You know, that's also a learning of how much is good for me, how much I can metabolize or integrate. And maybe it's like with eating, you know, if I'm just hoovering the food into myself, that's usually how dogs eat. So then there is no time for digestion. Yeah. So it's the same with us with experiences. Here comes a dog. you know, we need to give this, all is this waves, you know, it's like intake, in-breath, out-breath. And here we also have the three: in-breath, gap, out-breath, gap. Yeah, you always have this three. And it's always, you cannot only breathe in, you also have to breathe out. And this is the same with experiences and feeling safe. And feeling safe is also, you know, like in working with sexuality, you know, really on a cellular level, you know, we only open up when we have maybe commitment and feeling safe, and we know the other doesn't overstep our boundaries, or he's not out there to hurt us. Feeling safe is also a space where boundaries of the individuals are respected. And if I say, oh, we do a certain exercise now, and somebody doesn't feel to do this, I always say, you never have to participate. If you need a little time to stay out, give that to yourself. Yeah. So, and this already can bring such a relief, because in school, we all were not safe in this way. I mean, we had to push we were pushed through a lot of things. And that's also where we lose a connection with our natural rhythm, because healing also has to do a lot with coming back to a natural rhythm again. And on the topic of boundaries, sorry to interrupt, you know, there can be people who have difficulty setting boundaries. Maybe they cannot, they don't, or they do, but it's very rigid, you know. But if you use boundaries in order to create separations, that's not very healing, you know. So it's also a learning of how to bring forth my boundaries and have connected boundaries, which are a little fluid, which they are alive, and they are not walls that separate us from the other. You know, it's again a big topic, no?
Yeah. Let's say my experience with boundaries is like I had difficulties with setting boundaries, and then I had a phase when I fell in love with setting boundaries, so I created them very solid in a very strong way. And then I realized that there is a, let's say, another level, which is that I set the boundaries in order to be okay in the relationship. So it's not only about me feeling safe, but it's as well about acknowledging the boundaries of the other person. To stay in the relationship in a safe way for both, which is the important part. So there is the big question, how to set boundaries. Yeah. And this is, again, we touch the duality, you know. So how to set boundaries on one way, and at the same time not to, let's say, not to hurt the relationship by doing so.
Yeah.
This is big, for me, big topic, and it took a very long time to actually acknowledge this level of I need to set boundaries in a way that the relationship can stay. Or in many ways, or in some relationships, if something happens, let's say long time, again, my boundaries are set, maybe this is not the relationship for me. It can as well happen, which triggers the fear of being lonely. You know, that brings the topic of this. Out of curiosity, so slow sex retreat, you know, I haven't been to any tantric session, whatever. I haven't been to this slow sex retreat, though we have been speaking with my wife for a very long time about going. So it's like there is a point of curiosity in me. So what happens there?
Yeah. So in a way, it's like because you give yourself this committed time. And of course, in the past, I would do it 7 days, but I adapted it now for people who have children in modern times, just 4 days. But it's like, it is real work in these 4 days, because it's like, in a way, giving you the inspiration and the first experiences. It's like learning to walk. And it's not that the slow sex is it's not replacing the normal sex, you know, it's an add-on. And it can be, and it's like, it's something you experience and you get to know that a couple can always retreat to in times where healing is needed, in times where total authenticity and truth and reconciliation in the relationship is needed. Yeah, slow sex in those 4 days, it's a focus on that. It's a technique, but on the other hand, it's not a technique because it's all about being present and it's being love, you know, the pure male essential essence is presence, and the pure female essential quality is love. Yeah. So, and of course, all men and women have another side in them, a male and a female. They both consist of both, you know. But biologically, we are what we are. I'm a woman and you are a man. And so also how to bring this, how to establish those biological difference in our meeting with another, in intimacy or sexual intimacy or slow sex, yeah. And then in a way also how to allow that happening between men and women on a cellular level. And the cellular level is if there has been wounds or, you know, that they need to heal, and that they again can only really heal with consciousness, love, slowness, presence, so that energy flow that happens naturally between the genitals can re-establish again. So I had a couple, actually, he came secretly to us saying, yeah, he does this favor to be in the retreat for his wife, but actually he's at the point of thinking, you know, they were both 60, around 60, my age. He's thinking of leaving her because he feels attracted to younger women sexually. And they have been 40 years together, married, and so he wants to give that last present to his wife. Yeah, so that he basically finds a better way of how to leave her afterwards. No? So interesting, no? At the end of the retreat or in the retreat, there was something happening where, oh, I got a visitor, where he was looking at her with different eyes. And, you know, where an energy flow started again that had been lost because their intimacy had become boring or their sexual life had become boring. But with the discovery of the slow sex, something started flowing in that direction. And he, in the end of the retreat, he said, so please, it's confidential. Never tell my wife what I have been telling you in the beginning. I don't want to leave her anymore. You know? I see that we can grow more intimate with each other, you know, sexually also. No? And it was, and she was so happy. She was saying, oh, I would have never left my husband, but I actually felt so bored the last 10 years. Yeah. No? So they both suffered from the same boredom. No? Okay, another example. I had a very young couple, both 19, 18, and they came to me and said, you know, how can we have slow sex? We never had sex. You know? So how we get from no to slow? And I said, you know, and it came, and I also consulted them separately in their room. Yeah. So, because they also felt very shy about displaying this. And she had some abuse. So definitely, and they didn't know how to do the step from physical intimacy to sex. And I said, you know, why you both don't relax? I showed them how they can still practice the position of the slow sex, and they can basically establish being together in this presence and this love and authenticity, and their sexual organs would take the lead, you know. So in that retreat, they didn't have any penetration happening. 3 months later, they wrote to me and they said, we finally, our organs decide, they decided to have
bodies,
our bodies decided to have sex, and it was great. And we are so grateful that we started our relationship with that. because that will be like the basement or the foundation of our conscious relating. No? So wonderful story. A third one, and then I finish.
Okay.
I had a couple over 80. Yeah. So 82 and 84, something like that. No? He had a little bit this dirty old man energy around him, you know, where he was looking at all the beautiful women. So that you find sometimes when sexuality has been suppressed in older men. So. And she was like, you know, and they had lost their sexual intimacy altogether. So they were 7 days in the retreat at that time. You know, and in the end, something in him relaxed, where he didn't have to look outside anymore to find something. He found it inside of him and in the togetherness with his woman. And she said, wow, for 40 years, I didn't know, if I had known something else was possible, I would have already pushed my husband to do this 40 years ago. You know, so, and I said, it's never too late to have a happy sex life. Yeah? So no matter how old you are. No? So they basically found a way of how energy could flow again. It was really healing for both of them, and both of them had different needs. Yeah, so just and it just enhances the relationship. It doesn't replace the sexuality, because in the slow sex you don't go for orgasm. And if we would only practice this, we would have no humanity soon anymore. Yeah, so it's not replacing that. It's an add-on or a foundation of a very healthy foundation that can be healing and also emotionally healing. You know, it can also support, because it works on a cellular level in a slow way, so it's digestible bits, and whatever needs to come up comes up. So it's in a very therapeutically, and at the same time, that's why I call it sacred sex, because anything what is stored in us or what is can come up, you know. So and it's a sexual energy which is a drive. It brings activation in our system in order to work on trauma. You know, we cannot heal trauma if we avoid it totally. It's not about going into it, but you need to touch it in order to heal it. Sweetie, we have another visitor here. Look at him. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Okay, so
Yeah.
first
So
now a dog.
but I think that it shows something that we can also include, let's say, I would say, animalistic energy in us, you know,
Yeah. Yes. You know, I'm also,
say,
that's another thing I'm doing. You didn't mention, and it's also not really on my website. I'm also teaching people like somehow animal communication. It's not animal communication, it's being how to be in union with living beings, plants, animals. So I'm doing my first workshop in Poland next summer, where I work with horses and people, no? So.
And this is as well very interesting topic, because let's say, again, I would say that in the West, we somehow lost connection with, let's say, with the animalistic, you know, with the animal in us, I would say. And we pretend it's something it's not there, or because we think it's something, let's say, low or dirty, but I would say it's a very important part of us. And maybe because go ahead.
Yeah. No, and this animal in us, it's a very powerful. It's a tool, but it's not only a tool, because it's a reality. It's where we've come from. You know, our parts of the brain are like three again. This, you know, the cognitive, the limbic, which is the emotion, and then the instinctive brain, which is the reptilian brain in the back. So we have you know, where our life, how human being has developed in a way, it's all in us.
I would love to bring it back to, let's say, the slow sex retreat, and I will do a bit of marketing, or I will maybe not a bit of marketing, but I will rather say what attracts me here, because, and it's as well, let's say, the story of my relationship. Let's say we fell in love at the beginning. Everything was nice, beautiful, sex was great, because there was a lot of longing, to have sex together. And then come the practical life. We moved together. We had, let's say, son, or actually my wife became pregnant, and she was pregnant. And I realized that at some point, the sexual life became more like a physical exercise than anything else. And I would like to pick one word that you used, which is, it's boring. It becomes boring when it goes the same time. And then, there is one way of going outside and bringing, let's say, things from outside, buy some interesting toys or invite other people into it. But for me, the slow sex retreat goes in a different direction, goes, let's say, through direction of slowing down, of actually realizing that we might do the same things physically, but me right now, my thoughts, my emotions, how I feel myself in the body, it's always different. And the same goes for my partner. So the sex, though physically might look the same, it's never the same, but this is information that comes from inside, not from outside.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
And for me, this is as well something that goes with the, let's say, long relationships, because I would say that even into the life, it can become boring to some certain extent if this emotional intimacy is not brought in. Because, and as well level of safety, because the more I'm with my partner, the more crises, the more fights we had, we went through successfully. We stayed in the relationship, didn't hurt each other. It creates the level of safety that I feel in the relationship, and I can be more open. As well, more open to setting boundaries.
Yeah. And in a way, it always, even if people don't want to work on themselves, but through the back door, because that's what my motivation is, So I always wanted to bring people, or to seize the sense of separation and the sense of believing in it, And I have this beautiful dog next to me, so he wants to be caressed. I caress him at the same time. But it's like always, in a way, bringing spirituality into our day-to-day life. And it's always like strengthening the I base and really investigating who I am. And then I can bring that again to my partner. Yeah, so it's like really a reciprocal process also here. And how we can become each other's, we can support each other on that. Where in the past, especially men or women, they were going into the monasteries and they had to choose between meditation and sexuality, family life, or Buddha did even. Yeah, he left his palace and and yes, I know.
So we've got another guest here.
Got another guest. So okay. Buddha, yep. So I talk about Buddha and he starts to jump on me. Yeah, he loves to be included. I know you love. And so, and even Buddha's wife, later she confronted him, but she said, you would have not needed to leave me. And he came to the point of saying, now I know, but I had to do this in order to come to the point of now I know. Well, I love to support people in the very beginning, that they don't need to go to the monasteries, but they can use their husband or their wife to be their Zen master. Yeah, so that's where Zen comes into Tantra. In the past, I used to call my work Tantra Zen, because I always saw that connection with, really work on yourself. And the other one can become your teacher or master.
So I've got the back door, because you mentioned it's like if we don't work on ourselves,
yeah,
it comes through the back door to our life. You know, and I think that this is a very interesting topic as well. Let's say, and what is the back door? What comes through the back door?
what comes through the back door?
Yeah, if we don't grow, if we don't work on it, on ourselves. What crawls, I would say crawls in is maybe better than what
Yeah,
comes.
you know, I feel it's even not my job to bring people to this, because if it's not me, life will bring it to the people. Yeah, so I have no investment whatsoever to bring something, because in whatever way and how it is happening, it's in one's own rhythm. We come back to the rhythm, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
what we can provide, or what can be inspiration, you know, and maybe a little bit here and there, or support, or being a travel guide for some part. But otherwise, you know, life takes care in its own,
Right.
you know, I'm really thinking that life, in a way, is the Zen master, and it brings everybody to the point of being who I am. Yeah, so more and more.
Yeah.
And you know, some people grow only old, but there are people who grow up while they grow old, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
this is what I'm talking about, no?
Mm-hmm.
Growing old and up, not only old.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you become an elder, not an old
Yeah, exactly.
person. You
Yeah,
become elder, because there comes the wisdom.
yeah.
My experience with how life invites us to change, to grow, is through crisis, let's say. Because
Unfortunately, yes.
unfortunately, and I know that there is as well an approach of a victim, let's say, that we can, let's say, the invitation approach from the position of a victim,
Mm-hmm.
saying that this is not me, or this is not about me at all. It's, let's say, life is bad, or people are bad, or this person is bad, or whatever. But the point, again, it points out. And if he, let's say, decline or say no to those invitations, then we just grow old. We just don't grow up.
Victim, you know, and it's you know, where there is a victim, there's also a predator and there's also a helper. You have this triangle.
Triangle. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not about victim, predator, but about the identity. How much am I identified with who I believe I am?
Mhm.
You know, so, and this is again something to be brought into the work to challenge the level of identification. No? So of course I need to be somebody. I need to be a father, a mother, a woman, a
Mhm.
man. But how much I need to defend that identity towards others,
Mhm.
you know? Uh, Only the intensity of the identification creates wars, not the identification as such. If I say, oh, I'm this that moment and I'm that, but I don't need to defend my identity, that's where, you know, so growth is possible. Otherwise, I get rigid and stuck in one thing. No?
We have got again this notion, which is very interesting. The triangle is as well a very interesting topic,
Yeah.
especially that it starts rotating when the game is, let's say, being played. Say that for me, like falling into the status of victim is a strategy for me. How to cope in the situation, because let's say if I had energy or capacity to admit that I participate on the situation, that I as well bear some responsibility for the situation, I would do it. But right now, sometimes, let's say, my best way how to approach the situation is being a victim. So it's not, for me, more and more, I realize that this is not a decision that we make. It's more like It's more like, let's say, the strategy that we learned how to cope with our own life.
Yeah, you know, and I'm very compassionate on that point. And
Yeah.
I mean, we all, you know, there is bad stuff happening, and life also brings a lot of challenges, and where we, you know, we also feel self-pity at times, or we feel like
Mhm.
and it's like to support each other to come out of that again, you
Mhm.
know. So yeah, because we all fall into that at some point, because it's not always easy what life brings, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then if you see the things that man on, you know, war is something that man does on top of that, yeah. So
Mhm.
um, well, there are victims, yeah, and then they need our help to get
Mhm.
out of that again, no?
Yeah.
Because of course, if you have enough consciousness to see, wow, life happens anyway the way it does, and then but my reaction I have control over. I can, you know, maybe I have pain and I'm in the hospital, but I can still choose if I feel a victim or not. But sometimes I cannot choose, you know, that I need other people to support me to get through that. No?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
so
but I would say that there is a very strong piece of wisdom saying that in many cases I don't have any influence on what life brings, but I've got much more influence than that on, let's say, how I respond to what life brings, which
yeah.
as well is about, let's say, my not only what I do, but as well, let's say, I can as well work with how I feel about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Here the Zen part comes in it again, you know,
Yeah,
Zen, life, and then the reaction or
yeah.
the response. We can cultivate that, you know,
Hmm.
to to bring the response we want rather than being a victim of life.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Circumstances don't change. That we cannot control, but we can control how we respond to it. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. So it's like if we bring it into, let's say, practical terms, then instead of saying, for example, to my wife, you don't attract me anymore. Let's say instead of that, we need to do something different here. Maybe we can go to the slow sex retreat with Dhyani, for example.
Yeah. And maybe you even come before that happens.
Yeah, it's better because then this is the point uh, of crisis. It's
Yeah,
already because
already.
and we come back to, let's say, feeling safe because being told that I'm not attractive to you, it's, let's say, this is especially when I was attractive for you, so now you tell me I'm not anymore attractive. This is like, that can hurt a lot.
Can hurt a lot, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
And A, hurt, but B, there is as well, let's say, there might come question, let's say, okay, so what should I do to in order to you perceive me or to be attractive again for you? And we sometimes don't have any answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We
Yes.
don't, we just don't know. We don't know what happened. We don't know how to become attractive. Though I know that even the thought or how to become attractive for somebody, it's like, it's very difficult.
Yeah. Because it's like really here we come into the field of do I love doing or love being? Being in love or doing love, no? Or be
Mm.
human doing or human being, no?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
and it's a fine line, you know. And
Mhm.
of course, I would never say you are not attractive for me, but I would say, my, I need something I need that we try out something so that the energy can flow again between us. Yeah. So
Mm.
maybe it's coming to opening the doors of the senses more to
Mhm.
have some to play with touch, with sound, with hearing, to have some times of dating where you put sexuality on the side, but you allow like some arousal to happen naturally and
Mhm.
by just very simple things. Or how long haven't we danced for each other? You
Mhm.
know, maybe I dance for you. or you dance for me, and let's see what happens then. No? So that's very often lost in daily life. No?
Yeah, it is. There's no time. There is work. There is children.
Or let me do a little striptease for you. How long ago you haven't done striptease for each other? Yes.
Yeah. So here are some tips. And we come back to let's say to the borders. There is time when I don't want to have sex with you. And the best way for me to be in the relationship is to say, right now I don't have an appetite for being intimate for you. I need time alone.
And this we also need. This is also to be acknowledged. To need this also.
And I would say that it very depends on the, let's say, relational patterns that we have got. But let's say I know that in a couple of cases that let's say that there is an idea that if we can't be with each other present 100% of the time, there is something wrong with our relationship, because this is how the right relationship looks like.
Again, is conditioning coming into it. Yeah.
I know. But I heard it.
It's a big field, and I love to have a training on it.
Yeah. But this is as well with, with teachers, even the Buddha. It's like, I do it because Buddha did it. Instead of I do it, I got inspired by Buddha, never thought about it, and I feel that I need this right now, which is completely different approach.
Completely different approach, yes. Jan, it's a nice point. I feel we should finish our interview today.
I feel that as well.
And I'm always happy to continue at some point. Fresh.
Yeah, I know. And maybe one last, like to put a cherry on the cake, on the torte.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would be the cherry for today? Is there something left to point out from your side that comes right now?
I always love if people can have that attitude of being loving with oneself, self-love. Yeah, to not be strict, but to embrace whatever it is, not judging, to come to a non-judgmental place, being with oneself and with your husband or wife. Yeah, so that brings definitely a little more compassion into relating.
Thank you very much for this cherry on the cake.
Very simple cherry.
Yeah, but very powerful,
Simple and not always easy to live.
We have got, again, it's a piece of Zen, I think, right now. So, Dhyani, that was our interview, our discussion with Dhyani. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation. Thank you guys for listening us and watching us. And till next time. Thank you, Dhyani.
I enjoy tremendously, and not namaste, but Jekuyu.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.